Welcome back. Oh, for some of you, welcome. If you're new to the channel, in the odd numbered channel, 1, 3, 5, 7, etc., we go through the basics of YAB. We basically have a look at one functionality at a time. In the even numbered channel, it's a bit more freewheeling, and we go through actual programs. So if you're an absolute beginner, make sure you watch the odd numbered programs. If you already know another basic dialect, you can jump straight into the even numbered ones. Eventually the odd numbered series will come to an end, and then we'll have to decide, are we only going to use even numbers, or do we just use the numbers from there on? Not our problem yet. Okay, so last time we picked up a little example program called Typewriter. Here it is, and there we go. So let's type something in there. Okay, so I've been playing around with it for a few hours, and the new version does this. And let's play something, type something in there. Okay, so first it has a startup sound. I've decided not to make a sound for every single time you hit the keys. Just buy yourself a clickier keyboard. Then I've changed the colors to be more typewriter-like. Right? I mean, you don't normally type on the typewriter with white letters on a green background. So this is not black on white, it's actually dark gray on off-white. I think this is quite easy on the eye. Then, if you look here, is this the word this, or is this this? Because there's this big space here. This looks neater. So I've changed the font on this typing area. So that's all I've done so far. But it's enough. Let's have a look at the code. And you'll remember first the old one and then the new one. All right. So first I found a sound that I liked, and I edited a little bit, made it a bit shorter, because it was like 15 seconds. And I've created a variable to hold that location. Then the first thing I do before I even create the window is I start playing the sound. Now, YAB has its own commands for playing sounds, 2 of them in fact, and neither of them work for me. Now that is probably because I am running this on an emulated environment, and you know it doesn't have real hardware to connect to. I'll have to test it on my other machine, see if I can get it to work there, and I'll let you know. But yeah, people do run Haiku on emulators. That's why we have to test things in different environments and see where it works, where it doesn't work. Anyway, I could not get these to work for me. But never mind. Here, I made a system call, alright? And media client, play, boot, home, desktop, and then the file name. And then there's a little ampersand, which says pass this off to a different process, and don't wait for me, you know, don't delay the program. The thing though is that it's not entirely clear why, but it still takes about a second to get going, right? I imagine it has to load an entire bash environment and then execute the program. So there's a delay. And so I gave it half a second of, you know, just get this going and give it as much of the computer as we can. And half a second, yeah, you don't really notice it. You may want to play with that value a bit, depending on how fast your machine is. Okay, so we open a window with one view, that's all the same, and then draw set, system fixed type. What is that? That sets the font. Now I took the easy way out because we have access to the standard, let's see, that is here, yeah. Right, so it's the plain font, the bold font, and the fixed font. I don't think we have access to the menu font, except that it's used in menus, of course. So this line here, draw set system fixed, says use this fixed font, which is defined in the system. Right, so that's not a proportional font, it's a single mono, what do you call it? It's a fixed size. And that is why this just looks more typewriter-ish. And because, remember, we are jumping 12 pixels every time, it just looks better, because here on this regular font, which by the way is this one, the I is a tiny, thin little thing, and the system is expected to move the other letters around. Whereas on this fixed size font, the I is set in the middle of its block, and therefore you don't get such a big space. And it looks more like what you'd expect to find on a typewriter, doesn't it? So with that one line, we've already made it look better. Okay, then there's some changes here. The program we had set up these variables here so that it could do this line here. I wanted to get rid of this line because it gets repeated in a way at the end. This really does the same thing. So I didn't like that, because if you're doing the same thing twice in a program, you have to rethink it. So here it's using the variables old x, old y, blah, blah, blah. Down there it uses x, y. So all I've done is, first of all, these bits on the left are the same, but then I said define old x, and by the way, x is the same as old x, right? So that does two things. First of all, it defines the variables. Now in YAB you don't have to. Now there are other languages where you can't move unless you go back to the beginning of your program and you say dim a string as string, dim b as floating, and you don't have to do that. In YAB you can just start using it, and it will define a string variable as an empty string and a numeric variable as 0 until you give it a different value. It's still a good idea to do it anyway. To just, at the top of your program, define things, and then you can just rest assured that these are my variables. The other thing, I've set these equal, therefore, instead of this long line, I can just say update, which then calls the update subroutine, same one that we use in here. Where? There, right? Update, 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 update. So this doesn't actually make my program shorter or smaller, but the logic of it flows a little bit easier. And if you're the original author, sorry. Okay, then took out a line here. You don't really need low color, right? Because high color and background color are all you actually need. I actually experimented with that, and low color is mostly used if you have a pattern that you want to use to fill areas. All right, so the colors I'm using, 50, 50, 50. So that's not quite 0, 0, 0. It's dark gray. And here we not quite 255, 255, 255, which is white, just a little bit less than that, which makes it off-white. Use whatever colors work for you, but I find that easy on the eye. Right, then main loop is untouched, and in the type key subroutine, you can see here I originally had played around with getting a key on every keystroke, but that, with the delay that we have, it just slowed things down a little bit too much. It slowed things down to the point where it was not seeing keystrokes. So I gave up on that idea. As I said, just get yourself a nice clicky keyboard. Okay, so that's all for today. And of course the code is available on the SourceForge Git repository, and yeah, it's coming together nicely. Thanks for watching.